Next, on Currents News, the presidency is still up in the air as the counting continues and lawsuits are filed in multiple states, protests erupting all over the country. Then,
it's COVID testing day here at St. Athanasius Catholic Academy, the final step before red zone schools can open back up. I'm Emily Druby, that's ahead.
Plus, it's National Vocations Week, how answering God's call to the priesthood is on the rise in the Diocese of Brooklyn. And when will the faithful be able to worship freely in their chosen parish? Bishop DiMarzio is here to update us on the legal battle for religious freedom in COVID hotspots around the diocese. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. Counting, court fights, and chaos seem to be the words of the day since election night failed to deliver a decisive winner. The leads are narrowing for the president and Joe Biden in some remaining key battlegrounds, but Pennsylvania still could be the deciding factor. The Secretary of State there saying a winner could be announced today. Yeah. The count continues. Help! 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 The protests rage on.
Democracy dies in darkness.
And the legal battles begin. This presidential election still too close to call. The focus is on a handful of battleground states which are still counting hundreds of thousands of mail-in ballots that could decide this election. The Trump campaign is taking legal action in Michigan, Georgia, and Nevada and saying they'll request a recount in Wisconsin. On Thursday, a court victory in Pennsylvania giving the campaign more access to observe ballot counting.
This is very important because, as you know, they have kept us away 30 to 50 to 100 feet with a barricade. They had a guy in there wearing a badge who is not a sworn law enforcement officer, keeping people away.
The Trump campaign had claimed the state was cheating.
Our observers are going to be 6 feet behind every person who's counting these votes in accordance with the COVID protocols. This is a win for every person who's cast a legal ballot in the state of Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania's Democratic Attorney General called the motion more political than legal.
There are observers observing this counting. And the counting will continue.
And while most protests around the country, like this one in Philadelphia, have been peaceful, some, including here in New York City, have escalated. These pictures posted on the NYPD's Twitter page show garbage set on fire in the streets of the West Village, M80s found in the area of Fifth Avenue and 8th Street, and other weapons cops have confiscated at protests. Former Vice President Joe Biden is asking his supporters to be patient, saying his campaign sees a clear path to 270 electoral votes.
We, the people, will not be silenced. We, the people, will not be bullied. We, the people, will not surrender.
Protests are expected to continue across the country in multiple cities, including New York. The presidential race is changing by the hour. To stay up to date, head over to the Tablet newspaper's website at thetablet.org. And as the election continues to sort itself out, the bishop and president of Pax Christi is asking for prayers and justice. In an impassioned reflection posted to the Catholic organization's website, Bishop John Stowe writes, "We study the story of our democracy, the teachings of our faith, and how they work together to promote the dignity of the human person and the progress for the common good. We will work to make that vision become real and to be instruments of healing for all those who have been excluded and do not have the luxury of waiting." Puerto Rico has voted once again in favor of becoming the nation's 51st state. The majority of voters in Puerto Rico who cast their ballots in favor of statehood on Tuesday clinched a narrow victory. The non-binding referendum passed by a 52 to 48% margin. This is the sixth time Puerto Rico has voted in favor of statehood. The largely symbolic vote is seen as a way to urge Congress to act. Another 751,000 Americans claimed first-time unemployment benefits last week. The Labor Department reporting a slight trend downward since mid-October, but still well above pre-COVID levels. A surge in coronavirus cases around the country and Congress's inability to pass another COVID relief bill has nervous employers cutting jobs. The total number of people claiming unemployment benefits now stands at 21.5 million. The U.S. has broken another COVID record as daily cases hit an all-time high. According to Johns Hopkins University, daily new cases have surged by 45% over the past 2 weeks, with the average being around 86,000 cases. Deaths are also on the rise, up by 15%. The U.S. death toll is now more than 232,000, with total confirmed cases passing 9 million. Catholic academies and parish schools in COVID hotspot zones within the Diocese of Brooklyn have begun testing in order to reopen. It started in some schools this week, but others are still waiting. Currents News' Emily Druby reports on what school officials in Brooklyn and Queens are calling a difficult process.
Get done. Emma and her brother Dominic are being tested for COVID-19.
Kind of tickly, but it was soft. When it went into my nose, I was like, oh my gosh, it actually doesn't hurt.
A step that needs to be taken before their red zone school can welcome them back. Last week, Governor Cuomo announcing stricter reopening guidelines for schools in COVID hotspot zones, including everyone having a negative test before in-person learning can restart. The new rules also require 25% of the school to be tested weekly after reopening. 6 Catholic schools in Brooklyn were forced closed for being in a red zone. St. Athanasius in Bensonhurst is one of them. They held on-site testing for their students Wednesday and Thursday, which even their pastor, Monsignor David Casado, joined. He says all 170 people they tested the first day were negative.
I'm glad I got it done because I want this school opened. I want the kids back in here.
It's a very easy process. Kids come into their own private room and a registered nurse will administer the test. Now it's quick, it's easy, and it's painless. You can see I'm getting it done right now, and the results come back in just 15 minutes. But getting to this moment wasn't quite as painless.
And it's been very difficult getting this all together because the state took days to send the tests, and secondly, trying to get a vendor to take care of us and to get the testing done.
Shouting out Maimonides Medical Center for making it possible. Across the diocese, other schools are dealing with a similar struggle. Every school is at a different stage of testing. Finishing testing doesn't mean they can just open up. Results have to be sent to the state. They give final approval. As of airtime, that has yet to happen for any of the schools. But St. Athanasius is hoping it will be soon.
The children are really actually accommodating very well, but they need to get back to some sort of normal.
I miss my teachers and my friends, and I miss hanging out with them at class.
The school has been closed for almost 5 weeks. In Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, Emily Druby, Currents News.
The world is anxiously waiting for a vaccine to slow down this virus. While we are still a ways away from any vaccine being approved and widely distributed to the public, the CDC has a new tool to monitor any adverse effects the treatment may have when it is made available. Mandy Gaither tells us more.
As the race for a COVID-19 vaccine continues,
FDA will not authorize or approve any COVID-19 vaccine before it has met the agency's rigorous expectations for safety and effectiveness.
Government officials are hoping to put minds at ease when it comes to safety. Part of that includes a new tool. It's called vSafe, a new smartphone-based active surveillance program for COVID-19, a way for the CDC to monitor vaccine recipients for any health problems through text messages and online surveys in the first week after a person receives the vaccine, and then weekly thereafter for 6 weeks, according to the agency's website. If any adverse events are reported, the program will submit a report to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. During the early phase of distributing a COVID-19 vaccine, initial doses may be given to specific groups such as healthcare personnel and other essential workers, so they'll likely be the first to use vSafe. While some health experts say it's important to have other methods besides cell phones for reporting any vaccine health problems, there are advantages as well, including being able to get a lot of data quickly. I'm Mandy Gaither.
The Food and Drug Administration is considering whether to approve the first Alzheimer's drug in almost 20 years. A review of the drug aducanumab is underway to see if it's safe and effective. The committee will meet on Friday to decide whether to move forward with the experimental treatment. If approved, the new immunotherapy treatment would be the first to actually reduce the decline of the disease. There's a lot more news headed your way. Priestly vocations may be down around the world, but not in the Diocese of Immigrants. We'll tell you why coming up. Then Bishop DiMarzio gives us an update on the status of the diocese's battle with the state of New York to get the faithful back in the pews. And a big-hearted 6-year-old uses her own allowance to help kids who've lost everything in the fire-ravaged West.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/send us, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
It's National Vocation Awareness Week, and priests in the Brooklyn Diocese are inspiring others to answer the call and embrace the path God has made for them. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the story from Elmhurst, Queens.
It might not be a call to the priesthood, but every person has a vocation.
Whether it's to be a priest, to be married, to be single, to enter the religious life or the diaconate, every person has a call.
Father Chris BETHGE has been called by God in many ways. He's the Assistant Vocation Director for the Brooklyn Diocese and a teacher at Cathedral Preparatory School and Seminary in Elmhurst. Father Chris's life has been shaped by example, and now he's trying to be an example for others.
I pray that there will be priests in the future who say, I want to be a priest like Father Chris.
Last month, the Vatican released data showing the growing priest shortage across the world. But the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops is reporting steady enrollment over the last decade. The retention rate for the college seminary class of 2020 is expected to be 75%, which is higher than the average 71% over the last 12 years. And this year, the Brooklyn Diocese has only lost 1 out of 47 current seminarians.
Here in the Diocese of Brooklyn, I do believe vocations can be fostered. It's clearly working.
It worked for Father Peter OKAJIMA, a newly ordained priest serving at Our Lady of the Snows in Floral Park.
What we really need to focus on is having our children, having our adults fall in love with Christ.
When he was being called, he was married with 2 children. His marriage was eventually annulled, and he entered the seminary.
I had everything, and yet I had this sense of incompleteness.
Though it's a challenge with the ongoing pandemic, Father Peter is looking to inspire future priests by being present and asking the simple question that led him to a religious life.
Just saying, hey, have you thought about being a priest?
Father Chris has strategies of his own in spotting young men who might be discerning a call. His message to people considering the religious life is to follow the path God is leading you down.
Pope Benedict said, the world offers you comfort, but you were not made for comfort. You were made for greatness.
Out of Cathedral Prep's 34 seniors, 9 have expressed interest in continuing to discern their call to the priesthood. In Elmhurst, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
An Orthodox priest who was shot while closing up his church in Lyon, France last Saturday is doing well tonight. Officials say the priest has come out of his coma and has started talking again. The cleric is reportedly still in a lot of pain and may need surgery. Lyon police are treating the incident as an attempted murder, with the gunman still at large. A group of nuns have been kicked out of their convent in China, according to reports. An Italian magazine which focuses on religious liberties in the country says the nuns were declared dangerous persons and were repeatedly harassed by officials because they refused to join the communist-run Catholic Church there. Their current whereabouts are unknown. A new change to the laws of the Catholic Church, the Pope authorizing a revision to canon law that says bishops must get official approval from the Vatican for new religious communities. Before, only consulting with the Vatican was required. Now something must come from the Holy See in writing. The new law will go into effect on November 10th. A day of mourning at the Vatican as the Pope offers Mass for the 6 cardinals and 143 bishops who have died in the past year.
Quotidianamente siamo chiamati ad andare oltre l'immagine che istintivamente abbiamo della morte come annientamento totale di una persona, a trascendere il visibile contatto, i pensieri codificati e ovvi, le opinioni comuni, per affidarci interamente al Signore che dichiara io sono la resurrezione e la vita.
Among those remembered in the Mass were the 13 bishops who died after contracting COVID-19. The virus has thrust the Diocese of Brooklyn into a battle for religious freedom after Governor Andrew Cuomo closed churches and other houses of worship because of a spike in cases. The diocese is currently suing the governor, saying they've done everything right during this pandemic. On Election Day, the courts heard the case again, and we are awaiting that decision. The Tablet newspaper's editor emeritus, Ed Wilkinson, sits down with Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio to discuss the latest on this lawsuit and how the pandemic has affected our churches. Ed.
Thank you. And Bishop DiMarzio is with us today. We're going to talk about the ongoing story of the COVID-19 pandemic and how it affects us here in the diocese. Bishop, first of all, the Diocese of Brooklyn sued the governor and the state, saying that they were putting unfair restrictions upon us as a church here in the Diocese of Brooklyn. And we lost in court, and then we lost on appeal. Where does that case stand right now?
We have one issue, that religion, church services are an essential service to the community. We have been categorized as non-essential. Therefore, all the restrictions that go on to non-essential services have affected the church, to the point in the red zone, we can only have 10 people in church at one time. They say up to 25%, but whatever is the smaller number. So the smaller number is 10, the priest and 9 people. We can't close the doors and leave everybody else out. So we basically have closed the churches in that area. In the red zone now, which is only in Brooklyn, we have, I think, 6 churches left in that red zone, and some of them are on the borderline. Actually, across the street is okay, and on the one side of the street that we're on is not okay. So we've asked for an exception to look at that. That's beside it, working directly with the governor's office. But the lawsuit needs to go on because the real issue is that we should not be categorized as non-essential. We are essential. The rules that apply to other essential services should apply to us. For example, big department stores, big grocery stores, there's no limit on the amount of people that can go in at one time, as long as they observe the safety precautions. That's our problem.
We've taken a lot of safety precautions, and we've done everything that the state has asked. So, I mean, that's in our favor, isn't it?
Well, it is in our favor, but it didn't make the day with the 2 judges that already heard it. They commended us on our efforts, but since the overriding issue was that the state made is that we're trying to save lives, and gatherings of people seem to be looked upon as points of contagion. And we are saying that is not true in our case, and it may not be true in every case, but we know what we've done, the kind of precautions we're taking, the sanitization after all the services. We think we are safe.
Bishop, I was talking to a pastor the other day, and he was telling me that this cost a lot of money to sanitize these pews. And you know, some parishes and schools be in jeopardy because of these expenses with the smaller congregations?
We are in trouble. God will help us, I think. But, it costs $4,000 and more per student to reopen the schools with all of we had to do. Per student, $4,000.
Wow.
The tuition usually is about $5,000 or $6,000. So add that, and everybody's in deficit. Every school's in deficit now. If they had savings, they're gone. In the churches, it's the same problem. The sanitization, it costs lots of money. Changing the filter system, many things were done. And so we hope people, when it's safe to come back, if they feel safe to come back, they can still follow the Mass on TV, also on the live streaming from their parishes. But we want to make it available if at all possible.
Now, Bishop, how have you personally been handling this? I mean, you were very diligent about the quarantine. Are you able now to go out more to parishes and go to the office?
No, I am going out. We're not doing any parish visitations, which would be difficult because of the gathering rules. But anniversaries, special events, I've been out almost every Sunday to one place or another and dealing with that. And that's how we've tried to keep up with things.
Okay, Bishop, thanks so much for the update, and we'll see you again next week. And now back to the news desk.
Thanks, Ed. Tropical storm Eta is continuing to damage Central America. Honduras and Nicaragua could see nearly 25 inches of rain and heavy flooding. At least 4 people have died because of the storm, and hundreds of homes are now destroyed. The storm originally hit Nicaragua's coast as a Category 4 hurricane, which has left thousands without power and without homes. Still to come on Currents News, we'll tell you about a little girl with a huge heart and what she's doing to help other kids affected by the fires out west. And Cardinal Dolan has a message for all the faithful out there who love a brisk autumn day. We'll explain when we come back. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. A 6-year-old girl in Morrison, Colorado felt bad for the victims of the wildfires. So she took her allowance and bought them something she knows firsthand will provide them comfort. Gary Brode has the story.
You are loved.
Compassion can come in many ways.
I hope these help you.
And at any age.
The kids might want to go back home, but they can't.
After seeing the recent wildfire destruction in our state, 6-year-old Charlotte West is proof good is still in the world.
I told Mommy that if they lost them, they might be sad, so I wanted them to feel happy, and I am giving them some stuffed animals.
Just asked if any kids had lost their homes, and I told her that there were probably some that had. And her biggest concern was, have they lost their stuffed animals and their blankies? Because those are the things that are most important to her.
Charlotte's mom, Christine West, reached out to the Grand Foundation to see if there was a need.
They said, yes, we have about 10 to 15 children that would love to have the teddy bears.
So Charlotte, using her allowance money, went online and picked out 15 stuffed animals for those kids.
Why are you happy about it?
Because I'm giving my money to somebody else.
She's even writing personal cards to children she's never met.
I hope these help you, I think. Okay, here you go. Oh my gosh, why did I not read the back?
I'm so proud of her already at age 6, having the empathy that she does for other people.
Again, that was Gary Brode reporting. Charlotte has already sent those teddy bears to the children she wanted to help. And finally tonight, Cardinal Timothy Dolan of the Archdiocese of New York is inviting us to take a walk with him, saying this time of year is a good time to remember those we've lost.
This month in November, when nature is dying, is the reason why Holy Mother Church invites us during November to pray for the souls of the faithful departed, those we love who have gone before us in death. We can't forget them because they're still a member of our family, a family we call the Communion of Saints. Happy autumn, everybody.
Happy autumn to Cardinal Dolan and all of you at home. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. I hope to see you again next time.